Hey you! Thanks for stopping by! Welcome or welcome back. It's October and I feel like talking about a horror movie, or horror franchise in this case. I want to talk about Psycho, and its sequels. Be honest, you didn't know Psycho had sequels. I hear the original Psycho film gets praised, and I understand why. It's a horror masterpiece. But what about the other films in this franchise? There are not one, not two, but 3 films. We don't talk about the remake. I want to see if these films deserve more praise or deserve to be forgotten. Let's get into it. The 1960 film Psycho, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, is a horror masterpiece, based on the book of the same name by Robert Bloch. And, spoilers for the Psycho movies. The word I would use to describe this film is iconic. It has an iconic soundtrack, an iconic villain, iconic shots, and an iconic twist. The marketing is also iconic. People weren't allowed to walk in late for fear it would spoil the twist.
I've suggested that Psycho be seen from the beginning. In fact, this is more than a suggestion. It is required.
And here is what Broadway saw. No one will be admitted to the theater after the start of each performance of Psycho. The audience had been sold this concept. With it, they were sold on Psycho. Mr. Hitchcock tells you, as he told them, why.
This, of course, is to help you enjoy Psycho more. We really have only your enjoyment in mind.
The campaign began with newspaper teaser ads calling attention to explaining, selling the policy. The keep the story a secret idea supplemented the policy.
The trailer is 6 minutes of Hitchcock walking around the set, vaguely explaining what happened in the movie. It's like he's narrating a true crime documentary. I would want to live in a house like that. I love the gothic aesthetic. The studio didn't have faith in the source material, but Psycho went on to become one of Hitchcock's best films. There are many things to praise this film for, which makes it shocking that it wasn't nominated for Best Picture. Bernard Herrmann's score is recognizable. The music sets the scene for the horrors that await. It makes the movie scarier. The movie opens with a disturbing scene, an unmarried couple in bed. Marion Crane, played by Janet Leigh, is with her lover Sam Loomis. Sam is in the process of divorcing his wife, but is having money trouble. When Marion's boss at her real estate job trusts her with $40,000 in cash to deposit at the bank for his daughter's wedding, she takes the money and drives off. Money like that can change their lives. During the drive, Marion gets paranoid that an officer is onto her. Her eyes look like they're about to pop out of their sockets. She stops at the Bates Motel for the night and meets the owner, Norman Bates, played by Anthony Perkins. This Norman fellow seems nice. He looks like he wouldn't harm a fly. Norman invites Marion inside to eat sandwiches with him. During their conversation, Norman says some questionable statements about his relationship with his mother.
Well, a boy's best friend is his mother. A son is a poor substitute for a lover.
It's a cry for help. It becomes clear his mother, Mrs. Norma Bates, is a scary person. The cast does a wonderful job. Janet Leigh is very expressive. You can see the fear in her eyes.
What are you running away from?
Why do you ask that?
Anthony Perkins does a good job at making Norman Bates appear socially awkward, shy, and innocent. I can see why Hitchcock cast him. He wanted Bates to be sympathetic. Sometimes looks can also be deceiving. Marion decides she will go back to Phoenix and return the money, after talking to Norman about walking into private traps. She goes back to her room to shower. She rips up a note and flushes it down the toilet. Fun fact, this is the first time a toilet flushing was shown in a movie. This was groundbreaking for people who went to see this for the first time. During her shower, Marion gets a surprise visit from someone who appears to be Mrs. Bates, who stabs Marion repeatedly before leaving. Marion falls over and dies as chocolate syrup goes down the drain. Norman comes in and is shocked by what he sees. He cleans up the crime scene, puts her body in her car, and drives the car into a swamp. Sometime later, Marion's sister Lila, played by Vera Miles, begins to worry. She hadn't heard from her sister in days. She goes to Sam for answers, but he doesn't know where she is either. A private investigator visits Norman. He finds evidence that Marion was at the motel. He suspects Norman might be hiding her. He calls to tell Lila and Sam what he knows. When he asks to speak with Mrs. Bates, Norman refuses. The investigator sneaks into the house to find Mrs. Bates, but is stabbed by an unknown figure. When Sam and Lila don't hear back from him, they drive to the Bates motel. Sam talks with Norman while Lila looks for Mrs. Bates. She finds her in the basement. Mrs. Bates is not at all how they imagined her. Norman comes in dressed as Mother, but Sam stops him. Later, at the police station, a psychiatrist tells us what we already know. When Mrs. Bates died, Norman developed a split personality. He would become her, and she would do the killings. He also killed 2 other women before Marion. Norman has a history of killing women who he finds attractive. The movie ends with Mother staring into the camera as it cuts to Marion's car being pulled from the swamp. Hitchcock was doing the Kubrick stare before Kubrick. While doing research, I was shocked to discover Hitchcock had to fight to get this movie made. He had to make it as cheaply as possible, as the studio didn't think it would be financially successful. Hitchcock had made several films before Psycho that made money and won awards, so I thought the studio would gladly support Psycho. Making the movie for less than $1 million would actually be a good thing in the end, since Psycho made over $50 million in the box office, so it was very profitable. That was Psycho. Let's talk about the sequels.
22 years later, Norman Bates is home. Psycho 2.
It's starting again.
Psycho 2 came out in 1983 and is set 22 years after the first film. This was directed by Richard Franklin, as Hitchcock passed away just 3 years earlier. Franklin was a student of Hitchcock, so it makes sense he would direct this movie. Robert Bloch had written a sequel book, Psycho 2, but that is not the story that was adapted. From what I read, his book satirized Hollywood slasher movies, which the studio was not happy about. I'm surprised it took over 20 years for Psycho to get a sequel. I'm so used to sequels coming out just a few years after the first one. You would think the studio would jump at the chance to make another one right away to capitalize on its success. The movie opens to Marion's bloody shower, then switches to a courtroom. The Psycho movies are in color now, folks. After 22 years, Norman Bates is being released, played once again by Anthony Perkins. Rumor has it Perkins didn't want to return to the role, so Universal considered other actors for the lead, including Christopher Walken. In the courtroom, Lila, played once again by Vera Miles, objects. She is now Lila Loomis, having married Sam Loomis, Marion's lover, after the events of the first film. I want to take this moment to mention I'm glad the other actors from the first film returned. Vera Miles, who played Lila, and Virginia Gregg, who voiced Mrs. Bates.
I have a petition here signed by 743 people against Norman Bates' release, including the relatives of the 7 people he murdered.
Wait, 7 people? I thought it was 6. If we count the 2 women before Marion, then Marion Crane, the private investigator, then Mrs. Bates and her boyfriend who Norman poisoned, that's only 6. Who's the 7th victim?
It's all too obvious. Our courts protect the criminals, not their victims.
Ouch. Lila isn't happy. Norman's psychiatrist, Dr. Bill Raymond, explains to her Norman was found not guilty by reason of insanity. Dr. Bill Raymond is played by Robert Loggia.
Robert Loggia.
Can you spell that for me?
Certainly. That's Robert Loggia. R as in Robert Loggia. O as in, oh my God, it's Robert Loggia. B as in, by God, that's Robert Loggia.
I didn't expect the sequel to tackle a serious topic of whether killers should get a second chance. Bill Raymond sees Norman Bates as a mentally ill man who never had a chance at a normal life. He thinks he should be treated and allowed to integrate back into society. Lila sees Norman Bates as her sister's killer, who is a danger to others. He's someone who should be punished for his crimes. Lila believes Norman will kill again. Norman moves back to the Bates Motel and works at a local diner. I'm surprised the hotel wasn't demolished after the murders. When he steps inside, he starts having flashbacks to the time he poisoned his mother. Fun fact, young Norman is played by Perkins' real-life son Oz Perkins, who's a director. The motel has been run by a shady guy named Toomey, who Norman fires. At the diner, Norman meets waitress Mary, played by Meg Tilly, and an elderly woman named Emma Spool. She looks like she wouldn't harm a fly. Mary gets into an argument with her boyfriend, so Norman offers her a room at the motel. He's still socially awkward.
Do you have a knife?
No, I'm afraid. I don't. I just moved back here after being many years away, and I forgot to bring any cutlery.
Mary hesitates after hearing from Emma Spool that he was locked up, but doesn't know why. Norman says it's because he poisoned his mother. He pleads with her to stay as he doesn't want to spend his first night alone. The next day at work, Toomey begins to act inappropriately around Mary. He thinks she slept with Norman. Norman sees a note from his mother which freaks him out. When he looks for it to show everyone, it's gone.
I'm telling you, there was a note on that wheel from my dead.
While Mary is showering, someone is looking at her tillies from a hole in the wall. Could it be Norman? One day, while Norman is painting the motel, he thinks he sees his mother in the bedroom window. When he goes up to check, he's shocked to see the room like it was before. He goes to the attic and gets locked inside. Around the same time, a young couple sneak into the basement to make out. A mystery figure stabs the boy. The girlfriend gets away. Mary lets Norman out of the attic, as police show up to the house to question them about a man being stabbed in his basement. When they go down to check, they find no body. Mary lies to the police saying she was out with Norman. At the police station, Lila questions the sheriff about the man's death. The sheriff says they don't have enough evidence to arrest him. She suggests they check the swamp. Lila confronts Mary at the motel, asking why she lied for Norman. This is when we learn they are mother and daughter. They've been working together to trick Norman into thinking his mother is still alive, so he will snap and get locked up again. That's right. Mary and Lila have been gaslighting Norman throughout the film. This movie changes how you see Lila. In the first movie, she was sort of the hero. She helped stop Norman Bates from killing any more women. Now she is gaslighting this mentally ill man, and she thinks she's in the right. She's kind of the villain if you see it from Norman's perspective. She wants to stop Bates from killing again, and is going to extreme lengths to have him locked up again because she was failed by the court. Is Lila in the right? I don't know. So now that we know Mary is Lila's daughter, I have questions. That means this mom was okay with her daughter being alone with a serial killer? What was Mary going to do if Norman stabbed her with that knife? Lila, I'm questioning your parenting. Mary refuses to help her mother anymore. Lila reminds her of Norman's crimes. She doesn't want to continue hurting Norman, but the damage is done. He gets phone calls from a woman claiming to be his mother. He begins to question if he did murder that man. That night, he stands over Mary's bed holding a knife. Mary tries to calm him down and holds him. He tries to remember the good times he had with his mother. He's afraid of being institutionalized. Unlike other horror movies like Michael Myers or Freddy Krueger, Norman Bates is a sad and sympathetic character. He doesn't enjoy killing. The soundtrack by Jerry Goldsmith is beautiful. I love listening to it. While Herman's score is intense and scary, Goldsmith's score is calm and tragic. It captures who Norman is, a sad, scared child. I recommend listening to it. You can find it on YouTube. The next day, Bill Raymond visits Norman to tell him the truth about Mary, that she and Lila have been trying to drive him crazy. Norman believes his mother is still alive. Bill has Mrs. Bates' grave dug up to prove to him she's dead. Mary confronts Lila at the hotel. She tells her to leave him alone. She suspects her mother was the one watching her through holes in the walls, but Lila denies it. She begs her daughter for help one last time, as Norman is close to losing his sanity, but she refuses. Lila goes to the basement to dress up as Mother when she is killed by a mysterious figure. Mary witnesses the police discover Toomey's body in the swamp. She goes to warn Norman that the police will be here to arrest him, but he says his mother did the killings to protect him. Norman starts talking to Mother on the phone, even though no one is on the other end. Mary dresses up as Mother to get him to hang up the phone. Bill Raymond sneaks up behind her to catch her in the act when she accidentally stabs him. Norman mistakes Mary for his mother and says he will help her cover up the crime, which freaks Mary out. In the basement, Mary discovers her dead mother under a pile of coal. She thinks he did it, and before she can take revenge, the police show up and shoot her dead. Holy crap. At the police station, the police come to the conclusion that it was Lila and Mary who did the murders to frame him. Back home, Norman is visited by Emma Spool. She reveals Norma Bates was her sister and that she is his biological mother, but Norma stole him from her. Also that she did the killings to protect him. Norman hits her in the back of the head with a shovel, killing her. He takes Mother's body to the bedroom. He has officially turned back to his old ways. Poor Norman, and he tried so hard to live a normal life. Let's get to Psycho 3.
Motel.
Aside from total boredom, nothing's gonna happen to you here.
I can't have that sort of thing going on in my motel. Gives the place a bad name.
Why are you so kind to me?
You remind me of someone.
The third film was directed by Anthony Perkins, his directorial debut. Hitchcock would be proud.
If the director hasn't got enthusiasm for what he's doing, love for what he's doing, and by what he's doing, I don't mean just the activity of directing, but the activity of directing that particular scene, that particular day's work, that particular line. So you make it fun, whatever it is. Even a crying scene, even a tragic scene, even a heavy scene can be fun in a way, because the fun of putting it together, of arranging the dominoes so that they stand, arranging the pieces of the puzzle so that it all seems to be coming true on a minute-to-minute basis.
It was released in 1986. This would be Virginia Gregg's final performance as Mrs. Bates, as she would pass away that year. The movie opens with a nun named Maureen Coyle about to jump off a building. Maureen is played by Diana Scarwood, who played adult Christina in Mommy Dearest. I thought she looked familiar. The other nuns try to stop her, and in the scuffle, she accidentally pushes a nun to her death. Maureen leaves, walking through the desert. She hitches a ride from a guy named Dwayne Duke. He begins to get touchy with her, so she leaves, forced to walk in the rain.
Stupid bitch! You could have been coming instead of going.
Oh look, that's the same book Mary was reading in the last movie. Norman Bates is being interviewed by a journalist named Tracy when Maureen walks into the diner. She reminds him of Marianne Crane. Even her initials are the same. He panics and leaves. Maureen checks into the hotel, as does Dwayne. Before Norman can do to her what he did to Marianne, he finds her bleeding in the tub. She had tried to take her life by slitting her wrists. He takes pity on her and visits her in the hospital. He says she can stay as long as she wants. Dwayne is having the weirdest foreplay I've ever seen. Norman is still continuing his killing spree. He kills a woman at a phone booth and a tourist staying at the Bates Motel. Meanwhile, Tracy begins to look into Emma Spool's disappearance, thinking Bates might be involved. He grows closer to Maureen, even kissing her during a party, but he struggles to let go of his obsession with Mother. The police question Norman about the missing tourist, unaware that he hid her body in an icebox. He was inches away from her body. Tracy comes by at the same time telling Maureen about Norman's past. She gets scared and leaves. Later, Dwayne takes Emma's body and tries to blackmail Norman, but he kills him. Tracy asks former employees about Emma Spool and discovers she was in an asylum for a murder kidnapping. When Norman takes Dwayne's body to dump in the swamp, he breaks free from the plastic wrap and tries to strangle him. Norman overpowers him and finishes him. Norman can't die, he's the main character. Norman, why would you hide more bodies in the swamp? You know the police are going to look there first. They already suspect you. After having time to think it over, Maureen returns to Norman's house. Even though he took a life, he saved hers. She reunites with him at the top of the stairs. He hears his mother's voice and turns around, causing Maureen to lose her balance and fall backwards. She gets stabbed in the back of the head by a statue and dies. Let Norman be happy already. Tracy arrives to find him dressed as Mother. Tracy reveals that Emma Spool really is his aunt. She dated Norman's father until Norma stole him away. Emma saw Norman as the child she should have had with him, so she killed the father and stole him as a baby. I love how Norman's face is covered. Scariest part of the film. Norman defies Mother and stabs Emma's corpse. In the next scene, Norman is placed in the back of a police car. The sheriff is disappointed as he thought the man had changed. He says this time Norman is going away for a long time. Lila Loomis finally got what she wanted. The movie ends with Norman in the back of a police car, giving the Kubrick stare at the camera. Where does his story go from here? The next and last film, Psycho 4, is a sequel and prequel. We finally get to see Mrs. Bates on screen. So far, she's only appeared as a corpse. And we also learn about Norman's childhood.
Now, come answers to the questions audiences have been asking for over 30 years. Psycho 4, The Beginning. Anthony Perkins stars, with Olivia Hussey, C.C.H. Pounder, and Henry Thomas as young Norman Bates. Psycho 4, The Beginning.
The fourth film was directed by Mick Garris. I just covered another Mick Garris movie recently, called Quicksilver Highway. Check out that video. Psycho 4 came out in 1990. The movie opens to a radio show hosted by Fran Ambrose and Dr. Leo Richmond. They talk about boys who kill their mothers. A guy calls in named Ed. Could this be a reference to Ed Gein? The caller is actually, gasp, Norman Bates. This would be Perkins' final performance as the iconic character, and one of his final films, as he would pass away in 1993. I wonder if Anthony Perkins had back problems from carrying this franchise. I'm glad he stuck around as long as he did. The films wouldn't be the same without him. He is Norman Bates.
I always do what Mother tells me, but I never could eat oatmeal until I found oatmeal raisin crisp. Now this is oatmeal made my way. Crispy flakes with oatmeal, a bit of brown sugar, and loaded with raisins and almonds. Oatmeal raisin crisp. It's scary how good it tastes.
Oatmeal crisp, oatmeal raisin crisp.
Look, Mother, I'm eating my oatmeal.
Now that's a good boy.
Henry Thomas, Olivia Hussey, and John Landis? This movie is scarier than I thought. Norman is free again and married to his former psychiatrist, Connie. Okay, hold on. At the end of the last movie, the sheriff said Norman was going away for good. I can believe in the second film Norman would get out after 20 years in a mental hospital. But there is no way he would be let out a second time after killing more people. Is the justice system in this movie that bad? Ed talks about his childhood and how unstable his mother is. His father died when he was a child from bee stings. Wait, hold it again. In the third movie, we find out Emma Spool killed Norman's father. Yeah, this film ignores the events of the third film. Yeah, this was intentionally done by the writer, who I might add was the same writer for the first movie. Those little inconsistencies bother me. Norma tickles her son at the funeral, making him laugh, then gets angry at him. Yeah, she just likes to set him up. The film heavily implies she's mentally ill, and that Norman inherited her mental illness. Also, Olivia Hussey doesn't sound anything like Virginia Gregg.
Here, take this.
You're gonna need it. You're gonna stay locked in there until you learn not to say no to your mother when she tells you you're a girl.
Norman, what did you put in my tea? Gonna get you for this, Norman. Gonna show you what happens to bad little boys who poison their mothers.
She's a good actress, but again, consistency. I'm supposed to believe this is the same person. Norma blames her son for ruining her body, saying she should have killed him in her womb. She humiliates him by putting him in a dress and making him wear makeup. She also touches him inappropriately, then gets mad at Norman when he gets aroused.
A son is a poor substitute for a lover.
I can't take her seriously when she says wee wee.
And you'll probably have to make wee-wee, and you'll squat over this. That's all that thing of yours is for, making wee-wee. You clear on that?
This was done intentionally. It makes sense because Norma is from an older generation that didn't talk about intercourse or certain body parts. He spies on his mother through a hole in the wall. It was implied in the first movie their relationship bordered on incest. It's obvious in this movie. Norma begins dating a man named Chet Rudolph. They plan to marry once his divorce is finalized. Norman doesn't get along with him, so he poisons them both. They drink poisoned tea and die. He lives with his mother's corpse and begins to dress as her. When a teenage girl named Holly wants to sleep with him, his mother persona kills her. He also kills another woman named Gloria after they make out. He dumps her car into the swamp while she's still alive in the trunk. That is a scary way to go. Dr. Leo recognizes Ed as Norman Bates, his former patient. He urges the radio host to trace the phone call. In the present day, Norman confesses he is going to kill Connie because she's pregnant with his child. He fears his child will inherit his mental illness. He takes Connie back to his old house. He tries to kill her, but she talks him out of it. She assures him their child will not end up like him, and he's not that person anymore. Norman comes to his senses and sets the house on fire to finally put his past behind him. In the smoke, he sees his past victims. I wish Marion and Mary were there. He pushes them aside and makes it outside. The next morning, Norman and Connie embrace. He says he's finally free. Connie doesn't show up until the second half of the film when she helps Norman overcome his demons. I wish we explored how they met and fell in love, and how Norman was released after a few years. I'm sorry, I can't suspend my disbelief. I need answers. Maybe have Norman escape and fake his death and live under a new name. Norman meeting Connie and being released could have been its own movie. The final shot is a rocking chair slowly moving. Mother begs to be released, but she's not getting out to hurt anyone ever again. It cuts to black as a baby is heard crying, possibly Norman's child. That's the Psycho franchise. Let's get to my thoughts. The Psycho franchise, for some reason, doesn't get talked about. Everyone knows about the Friday the 13th and Halloween sequels. Some good, some bad. Yes, the sequels didn't get as good reviews as the first one. They're not winning any awards. That doesn't mean they weren't enjoyable. As I said earlier, the soundtrack makes me emotional, and the actors did a great job making me love or hate a character. Each movie makes Norman Bates a sympathetic character who had trouble finding love, and I'm glad he got his happy ending. The actors and crew had worked on several Psycho films.
Tony is, I think, wonderful because it's like doing a play. And he has that energy and that insight to his character and the relationships, and he's always there for you as an actor, helping another actor.
Casting was a page from Hitchcock's book who said that their performance of the actor is really more in the intelligence of the casting by the director than anything that the director can presume to contribute.
Producer Hilton Green was instrumental in the making of all three Psychos.
Well, I was
Mr. Hitchcock's assistant director in television when he decided to make Psycho with his television crew because of the speed that he had to shoot the picture in. And that's how I worked with him for the first time on a feature.
We were very lucky to get someone who's been working on the Psycho pictures since the very first one. On the first Psycho, he was the first assistant director. On the second, he was the line producer. And on the third, he was more or less the executive producer and line producer.
The people involved cared about making a good film. Hitchcock set the bar high for a good Psycho movie. I say give the sequels a try. Give them a watch. There might be something you love about them. If you like this video, then consider liking, subscribing, or sharing. What are your thoughts on the Psycho films? Did you enjoy the sequels? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for stopping by.
Mm-hmm.